All right. Good evening, everyone. And thank you very much for joining us tonight for our Toastmasters District 3 continuation of our wonderful webinar series that we have. And tonight's session will be presented by our District Director, Peter Salazar. I've had the pleasure of watching Peter present for almost 6 years, where he's presented at TLI, several different functions within Toastmasters that didn't have anything to do with TLI. He is an awesome presenter. You're going to love this. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Mr. Peter Salazar.
Thank you, Lisa. Guests, audience members, if you have ever received an evaluation or given an evaluation and you didn't know what to do with it, then you are in the right place. Today's session was originally supposed to be called Effective Evaluations, but I have since renamed it to Effective Feedback. And I have since renamed it to Embracing Feedback because that is a big component that is missing out of a lot of our lives. Let's get started. So embracing feedback. Before we start, I want to share with you 2 little stories of me that will get us in the mood to continue with the presentation. Number 1 is when I was a young kid, I used to play baseball. And like most kids, baseball was fun and it was easy up until like 8th grade, junior high, high school years. And then baseball started getting challenging for me. I would go up to the plate and I would bat and I would strike out very frequently. And my coach would tell me, he would yell at me, he would swing faster. And being a kid who had not embraced feedback, who had a chip on his shoulder and a teenage attitude, I would just slam the bat on the floor and say, I'm trying. And I would walk back and we wouldn't have a good conversation. That was not a good form of feedback for me at the time. And I was not a good person to accept feedback. Versus fast forward to my adulthood. And I remember one of my latest mentors, when I first met him, I was assigned to his department to help him out with some projects. And he tells me, Peter, you have potential. I'm going to be your mentor. Do you understand what that means? And at the time I was like, okay, you're going to mentor me? It was kind of, I was using the word to define the word. And he said, yeah, he smiled. He said, let me clarify for you. What I'm going to do for you is I'm going to observe you in certain situations, and then I'm going to let you know, give you feedback, let you know how you did, let you know some good things and some things that you need to work on. Now, up front, some of them are going to sound brutal, but they're intended to help you. And I'm going to be brutally honest with you and let you know how you're doing and how you can improve. Do you think you can handle that? And at the time I was, up and coming and I wanted to be promoted. And I was like, yeah, sure. I'll do whatever you think. So we moved on, right? You see the 2 different approaches. One was just yelling at me to do something and I wasn't ready to accept it. The other one was defining the process. And at that point in my life, I was ready to accept it. So hold on to those stories while we go over embracing feedback. By the end of this session, I hope that you will take away 4 things. What feedback is and why it exists, and the structure or the components to put together your own constructive feedback session, as in you giving feedback session to someone else. And then we're going to turn around on you and we're going to discuss why you should accept feedback and how to take action on it. Because a lot of us, we hear it or we don't hear it and we just let it go. So let's get started. The first question is, what is feedback and why is it given? And again, I want to turn this around and tell you why it's given. Feedback is usually given by someone who has a vested interest in you. Now think about this for a second. Whenever you get feedback, let's just say it's your boss giving you your once a year annual evaluation. He's giving you feedback and it's because he has a vested interest in you, he or she. They're paying you to provide a service for their company that's probably making them money. They have a vested interest in your success. Let's take another route. Feedback from your parents. Do our parents love us? Generally, yes. So the feedback they give us is usually from a good place. It's from their heart. They want you to do better. So they're giving you good feedback on things that you should be doing. Your spouse, your significant other, loved ones, friends, family, coworkers, mentors, they generally have a vested interest in you. And we generally, depending on how it's delivered, listen to it. So now let's go back to the first one. What is feedback? Well, here's the definition. Feedback is a reaction to a person's performance. Now, I want you to repeat that in your head. Feedback is a reaction to a person's performance. It is intended to be a basis for performance improvement. So let me give you a great example. Let's imagine that my spouse and I went to watch a movie. It was a rom-com, a romantic comedy. And when the movie was over, she was teary-eyed. She was happy. She was, oh my gosh, that was such a beautiful movie. I loved it. And she looks over at me and she has to nudge me and wake me up. And I'm like, oh my gosh, is it over? Is it finally over? That was so terrible. We both observed the exact same movie. So our reaction was different. So the point here is that one person's reaction to your performance does not define you. It is just their reaction to how they feel you did and how they feel you can improve. Now, let's assume that both my wife and I, we met the director and she's giving him all praise and compliments and great feedback. Oh, that was the most beautiful movie ever. Next time, maybe why don't you bring one of the Chris's, Chris Evans or Chris Hemsworth, because they're dreamy and I really like him, blah, blah. That's her feedback, her reaction. Now, my feedback would be, I thought there'd be more action in this. You know, you should blow things more up. Maybe there should be some karate scenes in here. Different feedback to the same person, probably going to accept my wife's feedback because she would be on the same level to help him improve his type of movie versus my feedback, not in his ballpark. So again, the point here is that feedback is usually given from one person's reaction and it is intended to help you improve your performance. Remember, one positive thing about this whole session through, feedback does not define you. Whether it's positive or negative, it is how you accept it that will help you carry forward. So now let's go into how to give feedback. This is very important because a lot of us are in positions to give feedback and we don't realize it. A lot of us give feedback to our peers. We give feedback to our children, our parents, our friends. Some of us are in positions of authority, coaches, teachers, managers, supervisors, leaders. So we need to understand a proper way to give constructive feedback so that the person doesn't do what teenage me used to do and just stop listening and start my rebuttal before you even start speaking. So I have broken this down into 6 components that have worked out for me, and here they are. Number 1, feedback should be immediate. When this session is done, I'm going to ask for feedback. And because it's fresh in my mind, because I'm still excited about what I just gave, I'm going to listen and it's going to make an impact and I'm going to remember it. Versus I've received feedback in the past where they say, hey, Peter, I remember you gave a presentation a couple months ago. It was on leadership or something. And it was good, but I remember the room was dark. I was like, what are you talking about? So when giving feedback, time is of the essence. Don't be like that boss that waits for January and talks about something you did the prior year in March or April that you have since fixed. That's no longer effective. And it's, in this case, it may be affecting your promotion. So when you get to that position, don't be like that. Give it immediate. Number 2 is start on a positive note. Have you ever had somebody say, hey, come over here. This sucked. I don't know how to start with you. It's just, you're like, oh my God, I don't want to be here. I don't want to listen to you. You're probably already singing a song in your head and they keep talking. I know that when I get upset with my son and I tell him something, it doesn't start on a positive note, I know he's not listening. So now contrast that with if I would have called my son over and said, hey, I saw you got an A in math. Can we talk about your history? I see you're struggling there. I reeled him in with the A because he's proud of that A. And now it's given me a little stepping stone to talk about something that he needs to improve on. So constructive feedback should be immediate and start on a positive note. And it should be specific. let's imagine that you're always late to work and your boss calls you into the office and they say, Steve, you're always late to work. Can you please show up on time? Sounds specific, right? But Steve believes that he's always on time. He shows up between 9 and 9:30. Let's turn around and say, Steve, I noticed that you've been late a couple times. Start time here for our office is 9 a.m. Do you think you could be on time from now on, before 9 a.m.? That completely changes the feedback to something specific versus me assuming that I'm always on time. My time is 9:30, but I didn't know that my boss's time or Steve's boss's time is 9 a.m. The more specific you give it, the more you're going to help the person change and improve the attitude or the performance. 4 is limit the areas for improvement. I have seen people give scrolls of areas for improvement, and it seems never ending. You're always late. Your hair's a mess. You're not following the dress code. Jeans are for Fridays, not Monday through Thursday. You smoke, your smoke breaks are too long. You smoke, it's against company policy, whatever it is. And it goes on and on and on and on and on. And the person doesn't know where to go. They're probably on their way out the door because there's so many of them. Feedback should be limited to no more than 3. 1 or 2 is better, but don't do more than 3 because after a while, they're just going to get lost. There's so much to do that they won't be able to do it all. And we'll get back to that in a minute. Number 5 is emphasize how the adjustments will help. Now, this is kind of goes in line with number 3 to be specific. So imagine the 9 a.m. scenario. It will go something like this. Steve, every time you show up late, it affects your coworker B negatively because she has to cover for you when you're not here at 9 a.m. And as a result, then she's late on her work and she's frustrated all day and it's not in a good mood. I want you to take note that on the days that you're late, she is not in a good mood. And on the days that you're here, she's in a great mood. It's not only that, it affects other coworkers that have to cover for you when you're not on time. So to help us all be more successful, do you think you could be on time? Do you think you could be here on or before 9 a.m. every day? That's a completely added on feature of giving feedback that will help the person welcome the feedback. And they might be even empathetic for it and say, oh my gosh, I had no idea that I was affecting my coworker so badly. I'm so sorry. Let me see how I can fix that. And it usually helps to fix it because in the grand scheme of things, there's other things beyond just the person. So emphasize how the adjustment will help their performance, the team, the movie. And finally, number 6, end on a positive note. Now, if you see that we start on a positive note, we gave specific areas for improvement, and we ended on a positive note, this is commonly known as the sandwich method. So you start positive, you give them something for improvement, and then you end positive. It just helps you walk away feeling good from that meeting. So imagine if you left it at that. You're late all the time. I don't like it. You need to fix it. We're done here. That person might walk away and never come back. It's the same scenario that people usually say, don't go to bed angry with your spouse or significant other. It's the same thing here. Don't end feedback on a negative note. Try to end it on a positive note because it will help that person feel reassured. So maybe in this case, you're telling this person to be on time and give them suggestions on how to improve it and how to affect the department. And they say, by the way, I have noticed that your participation during team events has increased. And I just want to add that when you participate, the team feels more cohesive. And I also noticed a little bit better step in you. So please continue that. Work on this area that we talked about, but I just want to let you know that I have noticed some positive improvements in your development. So thank you for that. Much better than leaving it on a negative note. I know I've done feedbacks and I left them on a negative note and I myself haven't felt great about it. So it helps you as a person giving the constructive feedback feel good, and it helps the person receiving the constructive feedback saying, hey, I know I got to work on things, but they did notice something that I did positively. That's a great feeling. Now let's flip it around. Feedback can be misconstrued to, why should I care about what other people say? I shouldn't care about what other people think about me, say about me, and you shouldn't. Other people's thoughts on you does not define who you are. You define who you are, and that's pretty good. So if you will allow me, I'm going to change this statement to, why should I care? Not to why should I care about what people say, but why should I care about feedback? Because feedback is specific. They have a vested interest in you, and they generally desire your improvement. Now, for the purposes of this demonstration, we're going to assume that there's only two types of people in the world. There's the first type, the people that don't want to grow. I am what I am, and that's all I am, right? They're done. Those people receive invites to this presentation, and they're not here because they're done growing. The second group is us, everyone here that's listening to this presentation. The groups that know that we are constantly improving, that while we are at a certain position today, we can get better tomorrow, no matter our age. Doesn't matter if we're in our 20s, our 40s, our 60s, our 80s, our 90s, we are constantly improving. So those people are the ones that care about feedback. And that's the audience I want to talk to. Why should you care about feedback? There's usually a vested interest. So I'm going to change the statement one more time, and we're going to say, how can I embrace feedback? And much like how can I give constructive feedback, I want to give you some tips on how you can embrace feedback. And this one I've limited to 5. So number 1 is understand why you are receiving feedback. You're receiving feedback for a reason, right? Your boss wants you to do better so that the company can hopefully make more money generally. Your mentor wants you to do better because they are mentoring you and they're looking for improvement on you. They're proud of you. They're proud of how far you've come. Your spouse, your loved one. My mom, every time I see her, she says, are you being a good person? Are you being a nice person? And I said, yes, Mama, I'm a good person. I'm a nice person. But she asks me that all the time. And I'd like to think, because she's always saying it, that she loves me. So I understand why she's giving me the feedback. She wants to make sure that I'm still on the right path for her. Number 2, try to listen for specific areas of improvement. Do you remember the baseball story? I wasn't listening and my coaches weren't really being specific. Now I want to share with you a different story. When I was in high school, I was on the basketball team. Freshman year and then sophomore year, I was on the JV team. For some reason, I was fortunate because those of you that know me know that I am only 5'6" tall, not 6'5", 5'6". So I was very fortunate to be on the basketball team. And my coach would praise me, and he would give me feedback. And he would say, Peter, man, you're a great ball handler. We need to work on your shooting skills, but you're a great ball handler and your passes are amazing. And because I had not learned to accept feedback or embrace it, all I would hear is that I had problems shooting. And as soon as I heard that, I would start my rebuttal. Oh my gosh, but did you see that shot I made? That hook from the corner, it was impossible. And I made it. He would say, yeah, I saw that shot. You took that shot 10 times and you made it once. The other 10 times that you passed the ball, we scored 10 times. Peter, do you think we would have won the game if you would have passed an extra 10 times? And I would just shoot, but the crowd cheered when I made that shot. I wasn't focused on what I can improve. I was just a teenager trying to show off and save face. Now, the difference is that I remember Coach Darren to this day. I remember his words. I remember his teachings because he was specific and he praised me in that certain way with the sandwich method. Remember, he gave me something good, something to improve on, and then something else that I was doing well. Versus my baseball coaches who would just used to yell at me at game time, not even during practice. I don't remember their name. Don't remember who they are anymore. Big difference. So try to listen for specific areas. It will help you. And make it a goal to implement changes immediately. Remember, as an adult, when I was learning how to present in front of audiences, at first I didn't know where to look. So I would just stare wildly and not know what to do. And it was noticeable when you're in the audience and I'm just looking maybe at the sky. It's noticeable. So eventually, people would tell me, hey, start picking one person out of the crowd and stare at them for a while. And then I'd start staring at one person uncomfortably for a long time. But eventually things got better. And the only reason that I was able to make these changes immediately is because I was encouraged to do it now. You just messed that up. I want you to get back up there and just stand to the side and just try to look at the audience for a minute. And then the next time you get a chance to speak, well, you'll see how it's improved. So that goes with anything. If you're being at work and you're being told to show up on time, can you set your alarm clock earlier so you could be there? That's an immediate change. And it applies to things that you can do immediately. If somebody's trying to tell you that you shouldn't smoke no more, it's my understanding that is a long process. That is not something you can do immediately. So try to focus on things that you can do immediately and make those changes immediately. That is a way that you will embrace feedback, because if you say, oh, I'll do this next year, it's just like that miracle diet I'm going to do next year. It never comes, because 2020 became 2021. And now 2021 is becoming 2022. I'm never going to go on it because I don't make the changes immediately. Number 4 is ask for feedback on the changes. Remember the story I just said about when I was learning to present? I would ask my mentors for feedback, and they would say, hey, yeah, you had great eyesight. It was a bit uncomfortable because you stared at one person forever, but now try to change the people from time to time as you're speaking, and it'll help you make more and more challenges. So that feedback, that immediate feedback that I got from them, helped me know that, number 1, I was on track, and number 2, that there's still more that I have to do to get better. Am I perfect today when I speak in front of audiences? Of course not. Nobody's paying me hundreds of thousands of dollars to speak in front of audiences. So I know I got a long way to go. But compared to that person I was 10 years ago, the person who couldn't speak in front of a small group of people, this is a huge improvement. So ask for feedback immediately. And that leads into number 5, which is enjoy your little successes. The first time I spoke in front of an audience was a Toastmaster group, and the feedback I got was, they were very generous. They were very nice to me. But one of the things I remember is somebody had a 42 on my feedback form, and that 42 was the 42 times that I stumbled. I said, or something like that, something awkward that just kind of threw off the talk. And the next time I spoke, I don't remember how many I had, but it was nowhere near 42. And that kept improving as time went on. So I enjoy that, because every time somebody says, hey, you only had 20 awkward pauses, that's a lot better than 42. So enjoy those little successes, but then know that once you've enjoyed them, you have to tackle on a new item on your feedback. Remember the scroll we talked about? They'll still exist. You may have only been told 1 or 2 or maybe 3. Once you fix those, ask for more feedback, work on other items on that scroll. Whatever it is, if it's for your work, your home life, etc., there's always something that we can do better. And that is how we embrace the feedback and keep moving forward. Once we've learned to embrace it, we welcome it. We want feedback in everything we do. How's my driving? How's my cooking? How was the way I woke up this morning? I don't know. We enjoy the feedback because we know that once we understand that it is intended for us to do better in life, to be better at what we are, then we enjoy it. Once I figured that out, I no longer had that chip on my shoulder. Oh, what are you saying about me now? How are you criticizing? I never looked at it like that ever again. From that point forward, I was like, tell me. I want to know. Yes, you're not going to hurt my feelings. I want to know how I did so that I can improve and celebrate the little successes. So I know that was quick, but that's the session. I hope that we covered what feedback is and why it exists, how we can provide constructive feedback to those that we give feedback to without even knowing it, our peers, our coworkers, people that report to us, and then why it's important for us to accept feedback. And then why we should take action on that feedback immediately. Now, before I leave you, I want to share a story that my mentor told me. And I don't know how true it is. I never looked it up, but it kind of goes great into us constantly growing and constantly accepting feedback. So he told me that the bamboo tree takes a little over 3 years to grow. And in pretty much the first 3 years, there's nothing there. It's just soil. But the farmer keeps watering. He keeps developing his bamboo tree. Waiting for that moment until it breaks through the soil and starts growing into its full potential. And once it grows into its full potential, it takes off, and some bamboo trees can reach up to 100 feet tall. So that is what he told me, that how I should approach my development, how I should accept feedback into my life and work on those items that I can, and then keep moving up and up and up. Because he said, one day you're going to be in a position where you're going to be that bamboo tree, and you've been developing and developing and developing. He's been watering me. And at some point we're going to break through and we're going to grow to our full potential. So for those of us who are constantly working on things and say, Peter, I've accepted the feedback, but I still haven't been promoted at work. It's coming. Peter, I've accepted the feedback, and whatever it is, I'm still not on time. I'm still not a good presenter like I want to be. It's coming. Keep developing, keep seeking the feedback, and there will become a time when, like that bamboo tree, you grow to your full potential. And you will realize that the whole time that you've been receiving the feedback and working on it, that it was finally worth it. Now, every time I do a presentation, I have something like the following slide. Where can I practice feedback? I credit 90% of my development and my successes to an organization called Toastmasters. I didn't mention this in the beginning, but 10 years ago, I was seeking a leadership position, and I was encouraged to join Toastmasters. At the time, I couldn't say a single word in front of a group of larger than 2 people. I would freeze, and I would just start to choke, and people would ask me my name, and I'd be like, I'm Peter? It would sound like a question more than a statement of. It was very hard, and my bosses were having a hard time deciding whether they were going to promote me or not, until I found Toastmasters. I went to Toastmasters in Arizona called District 3 Toastmasters. They can be found at www.aztoastmasters.org. This is what the top of the current website looks like. And if you click at that red button at the top called Find a Club, you'll get a pop-up window, and if you enter your zip code for your home area or your work, they'll show you what clubs are meeting in your immediate area. And there's usually a variety of clubs that meet mornings, noons, nights, weekends, etc. And you can visit a couple and see which one works best for you. I highly recommend this to anyone that is looking forward to the next level in life, saying, I'm ready to be promoted. I'm ready to be a better spouse, person, father, whatever it is. I'm looking to lose the fear of public speaking. I'm looking to grow my leadership. I need to be more organized. Whatever it is, this organization is the most cost-effective and efficient. And I mean, they give you every single opportunity possible for you to grow in whatever level you're looking to grow in. And when I say cost effective, when you call them and you find out how cheap it is, you're going to be amazed. So I'm not making any money else. I just always like to refer to them because they are a great organization that has personally helped me. And I think I am going to be a student and a member of Toastmasters for life.